Exposed. The incredible 50 request that changed everything for a lonely CEO and a little girl. Mark sat at his sleek, glass desk, surrounded by digital screens flashing charts and projections. The world around him raced forward in a blur. Meetings, deadlines, and profits consumed his every thought. Each day bled into the next, a carousel of ambition that left little room for warmth or connection. His young daughter, Emma, often peered up at him with those big, questioning eyes, silently asking, "Why is Daddy never home?" But he was too wrapped up in his pursuit of success to notice her hurt. One fateful lunch break. Craving a moment of escape, Mark stumbled into the nearby park. The laughter of children and the warm summer air wrapped around him like a forgotten embrace, stirring an ache deep within. Memories of carefree days flitted through his mind, a time when chasing bubbles and ice cream were the only worries he had. But adult life had stripped those joys away, replacing them with the cold weight of corporate ambition. As he wandered, something caught his eye. A small, makeshift lemonade stand painted in vibrant colors. Behind it stood a spirited 8-year-old girl with flowers in her hair, beaming at potential customers. Her hand-painted sign declared lemonade for one. Yet, something in her eyes spoke of dreams far greater than mere sweetened water. Without hesitation, Mark approached. The girl, Lily, without missing a beat, sweetly asked, "Would you like some lemonade, sir?" Caught by her spiraling enthusiasm, Mark felt an unexpected tug at his heart. He wasn't here for a drink, but in a whimsical burst of energy, he handed her a crumpled $50 bill. Gasps erupted from onlookers. His gesture was absurd, yet refreshing. Their eyes met. Her wide grin and innocence halted his breath. "Thank you. This will help my mom," she declared, sharing a heartfelt story about her single mother's struggles against a severe illness. In that moment, Mark's world shifted. Here was a child fighting to keep her family afloat, and he had the means to make a difference. As he listened, an urgency propelled him toward action. Should he continue coasting in his comfy corporate cage, or should he step out to help Lily, a little girl filled with tenacity? He offered to teach her some basic tech skills to empower her, to help bridge their worlds. It was meant to be a simple exchange, a mentorship blossoming from a moment of connection. But as their bond developed, complications began to surface. Mark became absorbed in his new role, even as work piled on. Phone calls, late nights, deadlines, they all started to intrude on his time with Lily. One day, his commitments took over completely, leading to a misunderstanding that left Lily feeling abandoned and confused. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Mark juggled his life, stress mounted. Doubts about being an effective father and provider crept in, mirroring the fears of Lily's own family. The weight of expectations began to crush them both. The opportunity for growth and connection hung in the air, but so did the chance for failure. With misunderstandings looming large, the distance between their worlds felt insurmountable. Just as hope flickered, unforeseen complications surfaced. As their lives hung delicately in the balance, Mark faced a life-altering decision. Could he understand what truly mattered, or would he let ambition pull him under once more? And would Lily find a way to rise above her circumstances even with someone as lost as he was guiding her? The answers remained just out of reach as both families stood on the precipice of transformation and redemption. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows in the park as Mark paced nervously beside the empty lemonade stand. He could still hear Lily's giggles from that day, her pure joy and endless dreams. It reminded him of Emma, and an ache settled deep within him. Had he really let his ambitions overshadow her small, innocent needs? Determined to make things right, he pulled out his phone and dialed Lily's mother. Each ring felt like an eternity. Just when he thought it would go to voicemail, a soft voice answered. Hello? Hi, is this Mrs. Thompson? It's Mark Donovan, from the park? His voice held a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Oh, Mr. Donovan. You're the one who, well, what can I do for you? I was thinking about Lily, he began cautiously. I want to make sure she knows I'm committed to helping her. Could we meet? I'd love to apologize and reconnect. There was a brief silence. Then Mrs. Thompson sighed deeply. I appreciate you reaching out. Lily was very confused after things fell apart. She looked so forward to your lessons. Trust me, Mark said earnestly. I'm committed to helping her. I just got caught up in work and I forgot what really matters. They arranged to meet that Saturday at the park. As the date drew near, Mark felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He wanted to show Lily he meant what he said, a chance to not only teach but to learn from her as well. When Saturday arrived, the park buzzed with life. Children played and families enjoyed the sunshine. Standing next to the lemonade stand, Mark rubbed his palms on his trousers anxiously. That little stand now felt like a symbol of hope. Finally, he saw her. Lily skipped toward him, flowers still in her hair and a wide smile plastered on her face. Mr. Mark, you came. His heart swelled with relief. Of course I did, Lily. I've missed you. The warmth in her eyes filled every crack in his heart. Together, they moved to a shady spot under a large oak tree. Mark took a breath, feeling the weight of his regrets. I wanted to apologize for not being there. Life can sometimes get in the way, but that doesn't mean I don't care. Lily looked up at him, brows knitted together. You made a promise. I was really sad when we didn't meet. Her words struck him like a lightning bolt. Promises mattered, especially to children. I know. I'm truly sorry. I want to help you, not just with technology, but with anything you need. With wide eyes, she said, can we still do the lessons? I was learning about computers. Like building websites and stuff. Absolutely. We can even create a website for your lemonade stand. Mark said, excitement bubbling within him. You can share your story, your mom's story. It can help others too. Lily's face lit up like fireworks. Yes, that is a great idea. Mark felt lighter as they brainstormed ideas, the earlier weight of stress lifting. The laughter of a child had rekindled his spirit. As they worked together, a sense of purpose filled the void he didn't know he had. But amid their joy, the creeping doubts still hovered. Could he really balance his demanding life while nurturing this connection? As he glanced at Lily, bubbling with ideas, he couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was only just beginning. Mr. Mark? Lily asked, a sudden seriousness washing over her face. Do you think we can help my mom too? With your big job and all? The question struck him like a hammer. Did he have the power to make a real difference? And just like that, he faced another fork in the road. Would he keep pursuing corporate success? Or could he use his resources to change lives? Starting with Lily and her family. The air in the park felt electric, but Mark's thoughts churned like a storm. He stared at Lily, her hopeful expression pulling at something deep within him. The innocence of her request sent waves of uncertainty crashing into him. Helping Lily and her mother felt right, yet the thought of stepping away from his ambitions, away from the corporate world, was terrifying. Lily, he said cautiously, what exactly do you think we could do to help your mom? With excitement sparking in her eyes, she leaned closer. She works really hard. She sells lemonade too, and sometimes she looks tired. I think if you could make her a website, maybe more people would come. Then she wouldn't be so tired. His heart sank a little. Did Lily know how big the world was? Did she truly understand that simple changes often took more than wishes and good intentions? And what if I created a little page about you too? He offered tentatively. People might want to hear your lemonade stand story. Would that help? Yes, yes, Lily exclaimed, her tiny hands clapping in glee. And maybe we can sell cookies too. My mom makes the best cookies. Mark chuckled, overwhelmed by her enthusiasm. The little girl was bursting with potential. Perhaps her bright ideas were a reflection of his straying purpose. He couldn't shake off the feeling that he once was like her. Full of hope, dreaming without limits. With newfound determination, he pulled out his phone. Let us record some of your ideas right now, okay? We can create a plan together. They dove into brainstorming, laughter bouncing between them as they exchanged ideas. Mark lost track of time as Lily took the lead, whispering her thoughts and wishes into the phone. This simple project, transforming Lily's lemonade stand into a community staple, ignited something within him. But as the sun dipped lower, a shadow washed over his joy. What if his help was just another fleeting promise? Would he end up repeating the past, forgetting the important things amidst the chaos of his corporate life? Mr. Mark, Lily interrupted his thoughts. You'll help my mom, right? You'll come back and teach me more? Her voice had shifted, dropping to a more serious tone. Of course, I'm in this for the long haul, he said earnestly, trying to banish the doubt that crept in. But deep inside, Mark feared he would never truly be there for either Lily or her mom. He needed to take the plunge, and even more than that, he needed to be sure it wouldn't drown him as they wrapped up their planning. The sun began to set, casting a golden glow around them. The world looked different from this angle, brighter, more promising. What if we schedule visits weekly? He suggested, optimism bubbling in his chest. Lily seemed lost in thought before she responded. Maybe we can make it a big surprise for my mom. A lemon-themed day. Mark's heart soared. That was what they would do. Together, they'd create something special. Something bigger than a website, a community, a future. But would that be enough to ensure he would stick around long enough to see it thrive? They stood, hand in hand, excitement bubbling like the lemonade they would sell. Mark felt like a piece of him was healing, the laughter, the creativity, the connection. But as they walked to leave, he caught sight of a familiar figure in the distance. Mark, the voice sent a jolt of recognition down his spine. He turned, and there stood Emma, with eyes wide in confusion, unsure whether to feel anger or joy for seeing him there. Emma, you shouldn't be here, Mark whispered, panic clutching at his throat. And just like that, his new beginnings hung in the balance, as a prior chapter threatened to unravel everything he was trying to rebuild. What would happen when their lives collided once more? Mark's heart raced as Emma stepped closer, her eyes reflecting a whirlwind of emotions. He opened his mouth to explain, but words clung to his throat like syrup. The energy between them crackled, the air thick with unspoken questions. What are you doing here, Mark? She asked sharply, her voice just above a whisper. I thought you were working late. Mark stumbled, glancing down at Lily. Her innocent curiosity had turned into concern as she watched the tension grow between the two adults. He dropped to one knee and smiled at her. Lily, could you give us just a moment? I'll be right back. Okay? Lily nodded, her excitement dimming a little, but she trusted him. As she wandered off to inspect a nearby flower bush, Emma's gaze remained locked onto him, fierce and searching. Really? You're here helping a kid with lemonade? She said, her arms crossing as if to shield herself from the implications of his actions. Emma, it's not just lemonade. It's about helping her and her mom. They need support, and I thought you thought what? She interjected, her tone sharp. That you could just run away from everything? Mark felt the weight of her words. They hung in the air, burdened with memories of late nights and argued dreams. I'm not running away. I'm trying to find some balance. I've been lost, Emma. You know that. Lost? She echoed with a slight scoff. You're at the top of your game, Mark. You've built this empire. You don't just drop everything for a little girl's lemonade stand. What's next? Charity work on the weekends? He faced her, frustration bubbling under the surface. What's wrong with that? I'm tired of chasing profits while my life slips away. I want to do more, to be more. Emma's expression softened just a bit, and for a moment, he thought he caught a glimpse of the woman he had once loved. And how do you plan to do that? By promising a little girl you'll help her? She believes I can, he replied, his voice steady now. It's not a promise I plan to break. Sometimes, helping one person can start a chain reaction. Maybe it can pull me back to who I used to be. Before Emma could respond, Lily reappeared, beaming as she held a small flower in her hand. Look, Mr. Mark. It's a daisy. Just like my mama's favorite. Mark knelt down again, allowing the tension to melt away into the joy of the moment. That's beautiful, Lily. It'll brighten up your mom's day for sure. Seeing the warmth on Lily's face, Emma sighed, the fight fading from her stance. She really cares about this, she finally said. You should know that. I do, Mark said softly. And it feels good to care. Emma studied him for a beat longer. Just be careful, Mark. You can't change the past, no matter how hard you try. The words hung heavy as the sun dipped lower, the light now casting shadows across the park. Mark felt conflicted, but deep down, he sensed something different stirring within him. His resolve had never been clearer. With a smile aimed at Lily, he said, I'll be back next week, and this time, we'll make that lemon-themed surprise happen. The little girl jumped up, clapping her hands with delight. But as the excitement sparked, Mark caught Emma's gaze one last time. There was a whisper of hope hidden there, mixed with uncertainty. Just remember, Mark, changing direction 1T be easy, she said quietly, before turning to leave. As he watched her walk away, he felt a weight in his chest, already missing the connection they'd once had. He turned back to Lily, who was busy mapping out their next steps. Somehow, in this uncertainty, he recognized a glimmer of purpose. But before he could dive back into their planning, a thought struck him, chilling him to the bone. What if he failed not just Lily, but the person who meant the most to him? As night began to settle in, the park transformed, shadows lengthening, questions curling into the air. What if he wasn't ready for this journey after all? The moment felt fragile, and Mark wasn't sure if he could hold on to it. Then he spotted something glinting in the grass nearby. As he bent down to pick it up, he couldn't help but wonder. Was this the sign he needed, or an omen of impending complications? Mark straightened up, the cool metal object resting in his palm. A pendant glimmered under the fading light, its surface engraved with an intricate flower design. It reminded him of the daisy Lily had just shown him. For a moment he just stared at it, wondering how it had come to be here. Felt like a strange twist of fate. Mr. Mark? Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She approached slowly, her little face lit with curiosity. What's that? It's a pendant, he replied, trying to shake off the heavy thoughts. I think it must have been lost just like me. She squinted at the object, a frown creasing her forehead. Like what Miss Emma said. You should be careful? Something like that, he muttered, tucking the pendant into his pocket. He needed to focus back on her and the task ahead. If this was going to work, he couldn't let himself dwell on the past. What's next? Lily asked, her excitement returning. He smiled at her eagerness. Well, we need to brainstorm ideas for your lemonade stand. How about we decorate the stand with flowers? We can make it colorful. It'll attract more customers. Yeah. Lily jumped up and down, her joy infectious. As they began sketching their ideas in the dirt with a stick, Mark suddenly felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this wasn't just about lemonade. Maybe it was about packing up the emptiness he felt in his own life. Helping Lily could illuminate a path he didn't even know existed. Their brainstorming session was abruptly interrupted when Lily's mother came rushing into view, her face a portrait of worry etched in lines. Lily, I've been looking everywhere for you. Mom, look, Mr. Mark is helping me, she exclaimed proudly, tugging her mother toward him. Mark, her mother said, hands on her hips, an emotion flashing across her face, relief mixed with caution. I didn't know you were here. I'm just helping Lily with her lemonade stand, he said, trying to appear casual. We're planning some fun decorations. The tension shifted as the mother looked into Mark's eyes. Thank you for taking an interest in her. She loves spending time with you. If it helps her, I'm more than happy to be involved, Mark replied, his voice steady, though doubt briefly entwined with his words. I just wish, she hesitated, glancing at her daughter. I wish things were better for us. It's tough, you know? The mother's heartache resonated within him. He nodded, feeling a shared weight that he never expected. I understand. Things can change, though. Sometimes it just takes a small step. Lily watched them, her eyes wide, as if she sensed the charged emotional air. Suddenly, the mother's face brightened. Oh, by the way, Lily's been saving up for a new book. We're trying to scrape by with work, but it's kind of hard to make ends meet. Mark felt a pang of empathy. He remembered nights spent in the office, poring over numbers, blinded by ambition. How much does she need? He asked almost without thinking. Just $50, her mother replied softly, almost embarrassed. But I don't want to burden you, Mark. It's not your responsibility. Actually, Mark hesitated for a second before conviction burned in his chest. I'd like to help. I can cover it. Are you sure? She asked, surprise lighting her features. Just for a book? Absolutely, he affirmed. Consider it a way to support someone who inspires me. Maybe it'll help us both. He glanced at Lily, who was now hopping with joy. You're going to get that book. Lily's eyes sparkled. Thank you, Mr. Mark, she shouted, throwing her arms around him. Mark's heart swelled. In that moment, he felt something shift inside him, a bridge being built between old regrets and newfound purpose. But even as joy filled the space around them, a gnawing concern in the back of his mind whispered, was helping Lily the right start? Or was he just opening a door to a whole new world of complications? The gravity of that 50 request weighed heavier than he anticipated. And as he watched the two of them embrace, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger than a simple act of kindness. The next morning, Mark woke up with a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling within him. The sun streamed through his bedroom window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. He had a new sense of purpose now, one that challenged the isolation he had grown accustomed to. A child's laughter echoed in his mind. Lily. He sat up, the events of yesterday like a movie reel playing back in his head. Helping her get that book was a small gesture, but it felt monumental in its potential to heal. But would it really make a difference? As he rubbed his face, he wondered if this connection was something real, or just another fleeting moment to fill the void. Later that day, Mark found himself at the local bakery, picking up pastries for himself and Lily. As he waited in line, he overheard the conversations around him, whether it was neighbors discussing their gardens or parents talking about school events. There was a warmth in their voices. It reminded him of the life he once shared with colleagues. The laughter, the plans, the bond. It felt so far away now. He picked up a blueberry muffin and a croissant, thinking how Lily might enjoy them. Suddenly, the door jingled as Lily rushed in, her mother close behind. The little girl's eyes lit up when she spotted Mark. Mr. Mark, she squealed, rushing toward him as if they were old friends. Hey, Lily, look what I got for us, he said, lifting the pastry bag as if it were a treasure. Yay! She clapped her hands, her enthusiasm washing over Mark like a warm wave, dissolving his heaviness. Lily's mother smiled shyly. I was just telling her we could visit the park if she finished her chores. That sounds perfect, Mark said, glancing at them both. After lemonade stand planning, we can have a picnic. Really? Lily's eyes sparkled with joy, and Mark's heart softened at the sight. Of course. But we need to make sure the stand is ready first, he reminded her playfully. As they walked to the park, laughter spilled from Lily like music. She chattered about flowers and colors, her imagination flowing freely. Mark listened, feeling grateful for this moment that seemed to bridge the gap between their lives. But beneath his smiles, doubt still flickered. What would happen when reality set in? Once the book was purchased, how could he continue to help? They reached the park, and Lily raced ahead to find the perfect spot. Mark leaned against a tree, watching her with a sense of protectiveness he hadn't felt before. The weight of his past still lingered like a tape stuck on replay. Business meetings, missed connections, empty victories. Suddenly, a pang of worry gripped him. The money he handed over for the book, was this just the beginning of an obligation he didn't want? What if he had overstepped? He felt guilty for fostering hopes that he couldn't fulfill. But then he saw Lily, beaming as she started lining up rocks for a fairy garden, her laughter breaking against the usual silence of his life. In that simple moment, the answer became clear. Helping others was a way to help himself too. Just as he came to that realization, Lily called out, Mr. Mark, come look. Her eager voice filled him with warmth. Maybe this was the direction he needed. Maybe this wooden tea just changed Lily's life. It could change his too. Mark walked over, ready to dive into this new world she was creating. But as he knelt beside her, a shadow crossed his mind. What if he couldn't keep this up? What if life started throwing challenges at him again, threatening his newfound joy? And there, kneeling in the grass, surrounded by daisies, he didn't have the answer. But the uncertainty clung to him like the summer heat, reminding him that sometimes, the hardest paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. Mr. Mark, Lily said, can we plant the flowers together? As he nodded, a thought pulsed through him. What flowers would bloom from their journey? And just when he thought clarity was within reach, a flickering realization struck him. What if a simple act of kindness led to outcomes he never imagined? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Mark knelt beside Lily, their laughter mingling with the chirps of nearby birds. He watched her delicate hands carefully arrange the rocks and dirt, her concentration unwavering. Each small touch felt like a step into a world Mark had kept himself from, a world vibrant with potential and hope. Look, Mr. Mark, it's perfect, Lily exclaimed, her blue eyes bright with excitement. She placed a tiny daisy in the middle, a crown atop her makeshift fairy garden. It really is, Mark said. A smile stretched across his face, widening with each memory of laughter echoing from Lily. It felt extraordinary how such simple moments could light up the corners of his heart. But even as Lily continued her vibrant chatter, a worry threaded through him. What if he faltered? What if he couldn't remain this consistent source of joy for her? The enormity of his past loomed large, a shadowy figure lingering behind him. At that moment, he spotted Lily's mother sitting on a nearby bench, her eyes trained on their activity, scanning the horizon in deep thought. Do you like flowers, Mr. Mark? Lily suddenly interrupted his thoughts, tilting her head to the side. I do now, he replied honestly. I like what they mean. Growth, new beginnings. They remind me of something beautiful. Like us, she chirped, grinning once more. And just like that, her innocence washed away the heaviness in his chest. A few moments later, the sweet smell of lemonade wafted into the air. Mark had prepared for this. He had bought a cooler full of ice-cold drinks for their picnic. It was a small gesture, but it felt intricate, woven together with expectancy and warmth. This wasn't just a gathering of two. It was a chance to plant joyful seeds on both their parts as they sipped their drinks. Laughter erupted once again between them. Mark had found himself enjoying being there, present. Yet, part of him remained anxious, thinking about how quickly life could change. When Lily turned serious, her expression shifting. Mr. Mark, do you think we'll always be friends? The question surprised him, cut through the air like a knife. He hesitated, taken aback not by her innocence but by the weight of the truth. I hope we will be, he said after a moment. Friendship is special. She nodded gravely, but then her eyes sparkled once more. I want to show you something. She hopped up and rushed down the path toward a group of blooming flowers. Mark followed, his heart pounding for more than just the chase. As they reached the vibrant blossoms, he noticed a small flyer fluttering against a nearby tree. Lily, look, he pointed. The flyer was an announcement for a local community fair, a place where they could further spread their newfound teamwork and joy. This is great, he said, feeling that familiar warmth wrapping around him. What if we set up a booth? We could have the lemonade stand there too. Lily's face lit up once again. Yes, and I'll sell my flowers. Suddenly, a worried thought hit Mark. But what about the money? Do you think we'll make any money? We can help people. Helping is what makes you happy, right? She looked at him with so much faith in her little heart. The weight of her words settled over him like a blanket. What if this was exactly the spark he needed? Just as he started to feel hopeful, he felt a flash of something unsettling. Could this be too much? An impending dread gnawed at him. What if his kindness cost them more than he intended? As he watched Lily's excitement, he felt a pull, a soft tug toward the commitment of not just being there for her, but being part of a larger responsibility. Okay, let's do it, he said, excitement seeping back into his voice. But even as he agreed, a question burned in his mind. Would he really be able to navigate this new friendship without stumbling into darkness again? As they made plans, Mark found himself in a whirlwind of feelings, panic and hope clashing like thunder and lightning. And just as they began talking about how to decorate their booth, a thought struck him. What if this endeavor made him more connected than he had ever been? "Mr. Mark?" Lily asked, bringing him back from his thoughts, her gaze searching his face. "What if it changes everything for us?" The way she said "us" sent a shiver through him, resonating with the deep reality of what they had built together. And just like that, Mark realized that every small step he took with Lily could lead him to a brighter future, a path of connection he had almost forgotten existed. And as they gathered their ideas for a better tomorrow, a glimmer of opportunity flickered in his heart. What if Lily's dream wasn't just for her, but a legacy for them both? Mark could hardly sleep that night. The vision of the community fair danced in his mind like confetti floating in the sun. He could already hear the laughter and see the parade of colorful booths lining the park. Most importantly, he could picture Lilia's face, aglow with triumph as she sold her flowers to friendly faces passing by. As he tossed and turned, a wave of doubt crashed over him. What if he failed her? A sudden memory of how he had disappointed others in his life flooded back, disappointments he could barely swallow. He squeezed his eyes shut, determined to cast those thoughts aside. This time would be different. Morning arrived with the sweet promise of a new adventure, daylight spilling through his window. Mark felt the warmth on his face, a sign that he couldn't ignore. He jumped up, heart racing with anticipation. Today he would prove to himself, and to Lily, that he was ready to embrace the responsibility of their friendship. When they met at the park, Lily was already buzzing with energy. She wore a bright yellow dress that fluttered as she ran toward him, grass stains already marking her knees. "Mr. Mark, I have so many ideas," she squealed, her enthusiasm contagious. Together, they dove into plans like artists crafting a masterpiece. Momently, they gathered the supplies from Mark's car tables, decorations, and even colorful bows. Mark couldn't help but laugh as Lily tied them around every corner, her small hands so earnest in their work. "I want our booth to be the best," she declared, puffing her chest out, determined and proud. With every item they set up, Mark felt more rooted in this moment. It wasn't just a booth. It was a connection, a bridge he had longed to build. But lurking beneath that joy still lay the shadow of anxiety. Would they have enough invites? Would people even stop by? Finally, as the fair began, a wave of faces flooded the park. Mark watched as families wandered by, the air fragrant with food vendors and the soft scratch of playful music in the distance. He and Lily stood behind their booth, a handmade sign reading "Lemonade Flowers, Help Us Help Others," crafted on brightly colored cardboard. At first, customers trickled in, curious but uncommitted. Mark noticed the furrow in Lilia's brow, a mix of hope and worry. The initial excitement began to fade, replaced by an uneasy silence around their booth. "Maybe they don't want lemonade," Mark whispered hesitantly, sensing the weight of fear creeping back in. "Mr. Mark, just smile. People like smiles," she replied in a tone that brooked no argument. Taking a deep breath, Mark flashed a wide grin at the next passerby. The moment he did, a mother and her 2 children approached, drawn in by the sparkle of Lily's enthusiasm. "How much for the lemonade?" the mother asked, her eyes brightening at the cheerful display. "Only $1, Lily chirped, a sweet grin spreading across her face. Mark felt his heart leap. As coins exchanged hands, laughter erupted, bringing in more customers. They made money more than he had dared to hope. Each sale forged a new connection that melted Marcus' worries bit by bit, revealing a warmth that began to grow between him and Lily. But then, just as things seemed to be soaring, a hefty figure loomed nearby. A tall man in a suit approached, scowling. "What are you kids doing? This isn't a carnival," he barked, his tone harsh against the joy around them. Mark's pulse quickened. He began. But the man interrupted. "Just what? Kids don't belong at a fair trying to make money." This is a place for organized businesses. Lily's smile faltered, her small hands gripping the edge of the table. Mr. Mark, she began, a whisper of uncertainty filling her voice. Mark felt his heart clench. He had promised to protect her joy. What if this man's words shattered that hope? The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. But just then, Lily's unwavering spirit caught his eye, determination flickering in her gaze. Without thinking, he stood taller, meeting the man's glare. We're not just selling lemonade. We're building something special here. Together. The man blinked, taken aback for just a moment. And with that second of pause, Mark realized something powerful. Their presence and their intentions were far more significant than he had ever believed. In that moment, as they stood against the tide of intimidation, Mark knew they had faced a true test. But would their courage be enough? As the scene unfolded, he sensed that this was not just about a booth anymore. It was about resilience and the possibility of finding strength in one another. Could they prove, against all odds, that even the smallest voices could echo the loudest in a world that often sought to silence them? The man's brow furrowed deeper as he stared at Mark and Lily, bewildered by their defiance. Mark's heart raced. It was as if time slowed. The distant laughter of children faded into a hush, leaving only the thud of his own pulse in his ears. He clutched the edge of the table, feeling the rough wood under his fingers, grounding him. Lily's eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and bravery. "We just want to help people," she said, her voice small but clear. Her words hung in the air like a challenge, echoing against the man's imposing figure. With a grunt, the man crossed his arms, still radiating doubt. "Help people? This is a business fair. You think lemonade and flowers are going to solve anything?" Mark felt a fire ignite within him. He took a step forward, a spark of indignation lighting his resolve. "It's not just lemonade, sir. It represents kindness. It's about helping our school raise funds for kids in need. We believe anyone can make a difference, no matter how small." He forced his tone to remain calm, knowing that losing his cool would not help their cause. "Is that so?" The man leaned closer, skepticism at the forefront of his thoughts. "You think a couple of kids can compete with real businesses? You're wasting your time." Before Mark could respond, Lily stepped beside him, her small frame somehow managing to exude strength. "Mr. Mark and I believe in our goals. Isn't that what matters?" She looked up at Mark, her trust in him shining like a beacon. The crowd around them began to shift, whispers rippling through the air. People were starting to notice the tension, not just the confrontation, but the passion stirring from the duo behind the booth. Mark's heart swelled. Perhaps the fear of being silenced could be transformed into a rallying call. "If you don't believe us, just look around," he exclaimed, pointing to families enjoying the fair. "Everyone here has come to connect, to share joy. That's what we're doing too." At that moment, a small girl from the crowd, another child perhaps inspired by Lily's bravery, ran up to their booth. She held out a crumpled dollar bill. "I want a lemonade," she shouted. The tiny gesture drew a snicker from the man, but also the attention of onlookers. A few seconds turned to eternity as anticipation built, and Mark took the dollar, turning the small moment into something bright. "Thank you. Here's your lemonade." He poured it with a flourish, handing it to the girl who grinned from ear to ear. The man scoffed, but the cracks in his demeanor were starting to show. Other families approached, drawn by the exchange, voicing their own intentions to buy flowers or lemonade. "We want to help too," one mother called out, and soon, laughter and chatter filled the air. Mark turned to Lily, her eyes as bright as the sun against the sky. Her spirit was infectious, shifting his own doubt to something softer. As customers poured in, laughter and the clinking of change echoed around them. The booth transformed, colors bursting alive with every smile exchanged. The tall man's frown gradually faded as he watched the joy build, piece by piece. Just when Mark thought they had turned the tide, the man cleared his throat loudly, regaining his authority. "This isn't over. I'll be back." He turned on his heel and strode away, but this time his shadow seemed smaller, Mark and Lily shared a look, one of victory and renewed hope. "We did it," she shouted, jumping up and down. Mark couldn't suppress the laughter bubbling in his throat. But even as joy filled their booth, a question lingered in Mark's mind. What would the man do next? Would he try to shut them down for real? As they continued to serve lemonade, every moment felt electric, filled with possibilities. Mark knew this was only the beginning, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, not just for them, but for everyone who dared to join their cause. Would their affirmation be enough to inspire others to stand tall with them? Or would they face an even greater challenge ahead? The fair bustled with life, the air thick with excitement and laughter. Children scurried about, clutching cotton candy and balloons, their joy echoing around the park. Mark felt a wave of relief wash over him, mingled with a shudder of apprehension. They had faced down the looming figure of opposition together, but what would come next? As the afternoon wore on, Mark and Lily became a small hive of activity. Every lemonade sold seemed to galvanize the surrounding crowd, creating a ripple effect that brought smiles, conversations, and curious onlookers to their booth. Lily beamed with every cup they filled, her enthusiasm a beacon drawing others in. "Look at this," she exclaimed, referring to a passing family who paused to see their sign. "They're coming, Mr. Mark." Mark couldn't help but chuckle, her pure joy wrapping around him like a warm blanket. "That's right, Lily. We're making a difference, one cup at a time." As the dust of earlier confrontations settled, laughter seeped into the space between them. Their mission had blossomed into a small community gathering spot, where conversations sparked and bonds began to form. But, just as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows, the tall man from earlier reappeared, flanked by a couple of officials in crisp uniforms. A wave of unease washed over Mark. Could this be the end of their small venture? The heavy-set figure approached with a frown, but this time Mark stood his ground, nerves tingling in anticipation. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice steady. "You kids think you can just set up shop without a permit? It's time to clean this up," the man declared, his eyes narrowing like storm clouds. Lily jumped in front of Mark, fists planted on her tiny hips. "But we're helping people. You can't take that away from us." Her voice rang with the fierce innocence of childhood conviction. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Her boldness caught the attention of those nearby. "It's true," called one older gentleman who had just bought a lemonade. "These kids are making a difference." Cheers erupted from surrounding families. Others chimed in, voices rising to a crescendo. "Let them stay. They're doing something good." Mark felt the tides turn. In that moment, the support of the community washed over him, steady and fierce, pushing back against the shadows of doubt. The man, visibly taken aback, looked around at the gathering crowd. "You can't break the rules," he stammered but hesitated, clearly rattled. "If you want to keep going, you need to fill out the right paperwork." "Let us do it," Lily shouted, her voice rising above the crowd. She turned to Mark, eyes shining with fervor. "Right, Mr. Mark? We can make it work." Mark felt alive, buoyed by the collective strength around them. "We'll get the paperwork done. I promise you that," he replied, the certainty in his voice surprising even himself. The tall man huffed but turned away, his defeat palpable, swallowed by the sound of celebrating voices that echoed around the park. Mark and Lily exchanged a glance of victorious relief, knowing they had both just grown into something bigger and brighter. As the fair began to wind down, Mark felt a deep sense of fulfillment surge through him. They had proven that kindness could unite, that compassion could forge connections that red tape couldn't sever. Back at their booth, Mark and Lily began packing up the remnants of their day, the remains of leftover lemonade glistening in the fading sun. "Today was amazing," Lily said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "The best," Mark agreed, unable to suppress a grin. "We helped out, we made new friends, and we even stood up for what we believe in. Do you think we can do it again next week?" she asked, her eyes alight with hope. Mark nodded, warmth flooding his chest. "Absolutely, and I'll make sure to plan things out right. We'll launch a campaign to raise money for your mama's health and connect with even more people. We are just getting started." That evening, As they walked home under a sky sprinkled with stars, Mark realized he was no longer trapped in the suffocating grip of corporate ambition. He was free, pulsing with a new purpose. The connection he felt with Lily reminded him of the importance of community, laughter, and genuine relationships. When he arrived home, he found Emma waiting for him. Her expression softened with relief. "You did great today, didn't you?" she asked quietly, her gaze searching him. "I did," he replied, the conviction ringing clear even in his voice. "And it was more fulfilling than anything I've done in a long time." For the first time in a long time, Mark felt like he was showing up for all the right reasons, not just for money or success but for meaningful connections and love. His heart racing with hope, he envisioned a future where they could thrive together, not alone, as families intertwined in support. Perhaps this was the moment of true transformation he'd been seeking, and in that heartwarming realization, Mark finally began to let go of the fears that had weighed him down for so long. Now, he felt a sense of serenity washing over him. The world was brighter, the road ahead filled with possibility. He turned to Emma, unexpectedly filled with courage, saying, "I want us to work together, too. We can help people, Emma, just like I did with Lily." Her eyes widened as she realized just how deep his desire to reconnect ran. "I'd like that," she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of their shared hopes. As they moved closer, Mark grasped the pendant he had found that day in the grass, realizing it was a much deeper symbol of their growth than he had ever imagined. It was time to share their stories, uplift one another, and embrace the radiance of transformation that echoed all around them. Mark knew they needed to take these new directions together, igniting ripples of change. And as he watched the stars twinkle overhead, he finally felt genuinely alive, ready for the next adventure that life had in store. The journey was just beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.